Goblin Reddit. Today's story is...
My sister destroyed my trust by sleeping with my boyfriend of 3 years, and now my mother is threatening me if I don't invite her to my wedding. When Daniel proposed to me, I felt that my life was finally finding its direction. We had been together for 4 years, and he represented everything I had always looked for in a partner: understanding, kind, patient, and with a great sense of humor. Our relationship gave me a fresh start after going through some difficult years with family problems and trust issues. So, as we began to plan our wedding, I was determined that it would be a day full of joy, love, and above all, peace of mind. What I never imagined was that my mother would have completely different plans. I come from a complicated family. It's not obviously dysfunctional, like those where there are shouts during Thanksgiving dinners, but rather the kind that hides problems under the rug. My mother is someone who hates conflict so much that, ironically, she ends up creating it by trying to force harmonious relationships between everyone. She makes you feel guilty, cries, and manipulates situations, all supposedly in the name of keeping the family peace. This whole problem started because of my older sister, Sarah. When we were little, Sarah and I had a close relationship, but everything changed drastically during my 3rd year of college. At the time, I was dating a guy named Derek. He was my first serious relationship and the kind of person I imagined spending the rest of my life with. We were together for 3 years, and we were even talking about getting engaged after I graduated. I was young, naive, and I trusted him completely. That trust was completely shattered when I discovered that Sarah had been having an affair with him behind my back. For how long? I have no idea, but it wasn't just a one-night stand. It was a full-blown, ongoing affair. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself, but Sarah's reaction when I confronted her. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She simply shrugged her shoulders and said something like, "Well, if he cheated on you, maybe you weren't enough for him." I will never forget those words. They hurt me deeply. From that day on, I eliminated her from my life, and we have not spoken since. Derek and I broke up immediately, of course, but the damage that Sarah caused to my confidence and self-esteem lasted much longer. My mother, however, interpreted the situation completely differently. She treated the whole thing as if it were a simple childish dispute between sisters, as if Sarah and I had argued over borrowing an item of clothing or something similar. "Men make mistakes," she used to say. "Sisters shouldn't hold grudges." I repeatedly tried to explain to her how deeply I had been hurt, but she dismissed my feelings, saying that I was exaggerating and that family is forever. In time, I realized that she would never take my side, so I stopped talking about it. I concentrated on building my own life away from Sarah. Fast forward to the present. Daniel and I were immersed in the preparations for our wedding, and I was excited to finally celebrate this event with the people who truly care about us. We kept the guest list small, around 80 people, and I had no intention of including Sarah. She was no longer part of my life, and I wasn't going to let her ruin this special day for me. But as soon as my mother found out about the engagement, she started putting pressure on me. "Are you going to invite Sarah?" she asked, as if it were obvious. When I said no, her reaction was immediate. She gasped in surprise, looked at me as if I had just announced that I was canceling Christmas, and exclaimed, "You can't do that, she's your sister." I tried to calmly explain my reasons to her, but she refused to accept them. She started with her usual tactics to make me feel guilty, saying things like, "How do you think the family will look in front of others? And do you really want to create more tension by leaving her out?" The irony of this last statement did not go unnoticed by me. I made it clear to her that I would not change my mind, but she remained firm. Over the following weeks, the calls and messages didn't stop. She even got several aunts and cousins involved in trying to convince me. They sent me indirect messages like, "It would mean a lot to Grandma to see the whole family together, or you don't want to regret this later in life." The situation reached breaking point when my mother threatened not to attend the wedding if I didn't invite Sarah. She presented it as her not wanting to take sides, but it was clear that she was manipulating me. It hurt more than I expected. I love my mother, even if she drives me crazy sometimes, and the idea of her not being there broke my heart. But at the same time, I couldn't let her bully me into doing something that would ruin my special day. Daniel was incredibly supportive throughout this process. He told me it was my decision, and that if my mother didn't respect my boundaries, that was her problem, not mine. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I told my mother that I would consider inviting Sarah just to buy some time, but instead of sending her an invitation, I sent her an explanatory letter. I explained everything to her as clearly and honestly as I could. I described how deeply her betrayal had hurt me and how it had affected my ability to trust people. I explained that my wedding was about celebrating love, trust, and happiness, and that having her there would only bring back painful memories. I also made it clear that this was not about holding a grudge, but about protecting my emotional well-being. I told her that I didn't hate her, but I didn't feel close to her either, and I didn't see the point in pretending otherwise just to keep up appearances. Sarah didn't react well. She sent me a series of angry messages accusing me of being petty and immature. She claimed that I was forcing the family to take sides, and that I was allowing a mistake from the past to ruin our relationship. My mother predictably sided with Sarah. She called me in tears, saying that Sarah was devastated and that I was destroying the family. She even said something like, "What kind of person excludes their own sister from their wedding?" By that point, I was emotionally drained. I told my mother that I would not discuss the matter any further and that my decision was final. She did not like that answer and continued to try to make me feel guilty, but I stopped responding. It wasn't worth the stress it was causing me. The wedding day arrived, and honestly, it was perfect. Sarah wasn't there, and although my mother turned her back on me for much of the event, I didn't let that ruin anything. I was surrounded by people who really loved and supported me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Daniel and I had a wonderful time, and looking back, I wouldn't have done anything differently. Now that the wedding is over, the consequences have begun to manifest themselves. Sarah has been posting vague and indirect comments on social media about family betrayal and how some people never manage to get over the past. My mother continues to send me long messages expressing her disappointment and commenting on how upset Sarah is. Even some relatives have contacted me to tell me that they think I made the wrong decision. Part of me feels guilty, but another part knows that I did what was best for my own mental health. I have spent years trying to rebuild my self-esteem and confidence after what Sarah did, and I wasn't going to let her ruin one of the most important days of my life. But now I can't help but wonder, am I wrong? Should I have invited her to avoid all this family drama? Was it selfish to prioritize my own feelings, even if it meant making my family uncomfortable? Update 1. It's been several days since I shared my story, and I've been surprised by the responses I've received. Thank you so much for taking the time to read about my situation and offer your opinions. I read every comment, and honestly, it was really enlightening. Some shared similar experiences, and that helped me feel less alone in this whole process. For those who felt I was too harsh, I also understand your perspective. It's a complicated situation, and I appreciate all points of view. Since the wedding, the tension has continued to gradually increase, and honestly, I feel like I'm caught in an endless conflict. My mother maintains her unyielding stance. In fact, she has intensified her expression of disappointment. I received an extensive email from her 2 days ago that was overwhelming. She said she was still heartbroken about the whole situation and kept emphasizing how I have caused a division in the family. The message was full of phrases like, "I don't even recognize you anymore, and this is not the daughter I raised." She also mentioned Sarah's feelings again, describing how much I have hurt her and how she is apparently devastated by having been excluded. The tone of the email combined guilt and emotional manipulation. He repeatedly mentioned how I was losing sleep over the whole thing and how I had been receiving calls from family members concerned about my behavior. Honestly, he seemed to be trying to present me as some kind of villain who deliberately wants to hurt Sarah and the whole family. Nothing could be further from the truth. After reading the message, I stood motionless in front of my laptop for several minutes, trying to decide how to respond. Part of me wanted to fight back and defend myself, but another part of me recognized that it would be useless. My mother has always been like that. Once she forms an idea, it is impossible to change her mind. I decided to keep my response brief and calm. I replied that I was sorry she felt that way, but that I stood by my decision. I reminded her that this was not about being cruel or vindictive, but about setting necessary boundaries and protecting my emotional well-being. I expressed my love for her, but also that I couldn't keep having the same argument over and over again. I thought that would put a temporary end to the matter, but I was wrong. My mother forwarded my email to Sarah. How did I know? Because Sarah replied directly to me with another long email that was even more hurtful than my mother's. Sarah called me spiteful and immature, claiming that I was clinging to the past instead of trying to move forward. She accused me of being obsessed with the role of victim and argued that I was destroying the family dynamic for no reason. She also claimed that I was being unfair to her because, according to her version, Derek was the real culprit of everything, not her. That part really got to me. Yes, Derek was a liar and an adulterer, but Sarah knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't an innocent bystander caught up in a web of deceit. She made the decision to betray me and never once took responsibility for it. Even now, instead of apologizing or acknowledging the damage caused, she tries to make me feel guilty for not letting her minimize everything that happened. I didn't reply to Sarah's email. I simply couldn't. I spent years trying to get over what happened, and contacting her now feels like reopening an old wound. However, it's clear that she won't leave the subject alone anytime soon. Yesterday, she posted another cryptic message on Facebook about how people show their true nature when they think they've won. Some of our mutual friends commented things like, "You're better off without toxic people, and some people just can't handle a strong woman." It's obvious who they're referring to, and it's exhausting. Meanwhile, my mother has continued to play both sides as usual. She still speaks to me, but our conversations are tense and awkward. She keeps subtly mentioning Sarah with comments like, "I had coffee with Sarah yesterday and she's really hurting," or "I just wish you could see how much the situation is hurting her." It's as if he's constantly trying to make me feel guilty so that I'll reach out to her, but I won't fall for that trick. I've been polite but firm, reminding him that I'm not ready for a reconciliation and that he needs to respect my boundaries, although I'm not sure if he will. Daniel has been my unconditional support throughout this process. He has encouraged me to concentrate on our new life together and not to allow the family drama to overshadow our happiness. He even suggested that we take a short trip to get away from it all for a while, and honestly, I think I will accept his proposal. A little distance from the family chaos could be exactly what I need right now. One of the most difficult parts of the situation is the mixed reactions from the extended family. Some people have communicated privately to express their support, saying that they understand my decision and that I should not feel guilty. Others have taken Sarah's side, either directly or indirectly, sharing her posts on social media or making unpleasant comments during family conversations. I feel like everyone has an opinion on something that really doesn't concern them. Most surprising of all is how little I miss Sarah. You would think that after years of estrangement, a major event like a wedding would spark some desire for reconnection, but it hasn't. If anything, all this conflict has only confirmed that I made the right decision in cutting her out of my life. She has repeatedly shown me that she is unwilling to take responsibility for her actions or to respect my feelings, and I am tired of trying to force a relationship with someone who does not care about the damage she has caused. That said, I cannot deny that the situation has been emotionally draining. I'm tired of feeling like I have to justify my decisions to everyone. I'm tired of being portrayed as the villain simply because I choose to prioritize my own happiness and well-being. And I'm tired of my mother treating Sarah's feelings as more important than mine. At this point, I'm not even sure how to continue my relationship with her. I don't want to completely cut off contact, but if she keeps pushing, I might not have a choice. So here I am now. I am standing by my decision, but the consequences have been harder to deal with than I anticipated. I am trying to focus on the positive: my marriage, my friends who support me, and the life that Daniel and I are building together. But the family drama is still a dark cloud hanging over everything. Update 2. It's been a real whirlwind since my last update. I thought things might calm down after a few days, but instead, they've escalated in ways I didn't expect. Honestly, I feel like I'm in the middle of a soap opera that I didn't voluntarily sign up for. At this point, I'm just trying to keep my sanity while navigating all this chaos. The first thing that happened was a surprise package from Sarah. I wasn't expecting it at all, so when I saw her name on the sender's label, I felt a knot in my stomach. For a moment, I hesitated whether to open it, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small photo album. The letter was long, several pages, and to my surprise, it did not express anger. Instead, it was a strange combination of apology and justification. She began by saying that she regretted how things had turned out between us, and that she was sorry for the pain she had caused me. But then she changed to explaining her side of a story, saying that she was going through a dark time when the affair happened and that she didn't fully understand the consequences of her actions. She wrote about how she always felt that she had lived in my shadow during our childhood and how Derek had given her the attention she craved. It was almost as if she was trying to make me feel sorry for her. The letter ended by expressing her hope that we could put the past behind us and start afresh. The photo album was even stranger. It was full of pictures of us when we were children, holidays, birthdays, everyday moments. Some made me smile, but most just made me sad. It seemed like Sarah was trying to remind me of the bond we used to have, but instead it only highlighted how distant we had become. I don't know if it was a sincere gesture of reconciliation or another attempt at manipulation, but either way, it left me with mixed feelings. I showed the letter to Daniel, who was cautious about the whole thing. He reminded me that, while it's good to acknowledge Sarah's feelings, I don't owe her anything, especially if I'm not ready to reconcile. He suggested that I take time to process it before deciding whether or not to respond, which was good advice. For now, the letter and the album remain tucked away in a drawer. I'm still not sure what to do with them. While I was still thinking about Sarah's package, things took another unexpected turn. My mother decided to intensify her campaign in the most dramatic way possible. She organized a family intervention. I wish she was joking. She sent a group message to me, Sarah, and several relatives, saying that she wanted us all to meet at her house to sort things out like adults. I didn't even know how to respond. The idea of sitting in a room with Sarah and a group of people who had already taken sides felt like walking into an ambush. When I told my mother that I wouldn't be attending, she completely lost control. She called me immediately, crying and begging me to reconsider my decision. She kept repeating phrases like, "We are a family and families don't turn their backs on each other." I tried again to explain that I wasn't ready for that kind of confrontation and that forcing it would only make the situation worse, but she wouldn't listen. She insisted that I was doing it for my own good and that I needed to stop being so stubborn. In the end, I didn't go to the meeting. I spent that afternoon with Daniel, trying to distract myself. But the consequences of my absence were severe. My mother called me afterwards to make it clear how disappointed she was in me. She said that everyone else had attended, even Sarah, and that my absence showed that I was the one keeping the family divided. She accused me of being selfish and unwilling to move forward, and hung up before I could respond. As if that wasn't bad enough, I started receiving messages from some of the relatives who attended. A cousin wrote to me, "You should have been there. It was really healing for Sarah." An aunt sent me a long message about how I was being stubborn and cruel by refusing to give Sarah the opportunity to apologize to you in person. Apparently, Sarah cried during the meeting and talked about how much she missed me and wanted to make things right. Now some family members are acting like she's the victim, and I'm the insensitive one for not letting her back into my life. I can't even begin to describe how frustrating this all is. It's like no one cares about my feelings or what I've been through. They're so focused on this perfect idea of family unity that they're willing to minimize any problem, no matter how deep the betrayal. I've been labeled a villain simply for standing up for myself, and it's exhausting. At this point, I feel like I'm completely losing my relationship with my mother. She has gone from being disappointed to being completely cold. She barely speaks to me, and when she does, it's curt and passive-aggressive. She even canceled the lunch date we had planned last week, claiming she wasn't feeling well. But I know it was because she was upset with me. It hurts, but I try to remind myself that her behavior reflects her own issues, not mine. The one positive in all of this has been the support of some close friends and, of course, Daniel. One of my best friends came round the other night with wine and snacks, and we spent hours just chatting. She reminded me that I am not being crazy or unreasonable for setting boundaries, and that it is okay to prioritize my mental health. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Even so, I can't shake the guilt. Part of me wonders if I'm being too inflexible or if I should at least try to make things right for my mother's sake. But then I think about how much effort I've put into healing over the years and how far I'd be taking steps backwards if I allowed Sarah back into my life without a genuine apology and without her taking responsibility. And honestly, I don't think I'm capable of doing that. So here I am, caught in the middle of a storm I did not ask for. I stand by my decision, but the pressure is constant. My mother is distant. Sarah plays the victim, and part of the family supports her. It's like I constantly have to defend myself for choosing peace over chaos. And it's exhausting. I keep wondering if I'm doing the right thing, but deep down I know I am. Now I'm wondering how to proceed. Should I write to Sarah and try to explain myself again? Or would that just open the door to more manipulation? And what about my mother? Is there any way to salvage our relationship without compromising my boundaries? Or is it a lost cause at this point? I'm trying to focus on my new life with Daniel, but the weight of all this family drama is hard to ignore. Thanks again for accompanying me through all of this. It helps more than you can imagine to have a space to share and receive opinions. Update 3. It's been about a week since everything went out of control, and I finally feel like I can breathe again. So much has happened, and although I'm not proud of how chaotic the situation became, I'm relieved that it's over. This will probably be my last update because I have made a decision that I know is final. I have chosen my peace of mind, and I am not looking back. After the family intervention and Sarah's letter, I try to keep my distance. I concentrated on work, spent time with Daniel, and avoided my phone as much as possible. But as you can imagine, the drama didn't stop just because I ignored it. My mother kept calling and texting, insisting that I at least listen to Sarah. She even offered to arrange a smaller gathering with just the three of us, saying she was concerned that the larger intervention had been too overwhelming for me. I declined again, politely but firmly, and thought that would be the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. Last weekend, Daniel and I hosted a small dinner with some close friends. It was supposed to be a quiet, enjoyable evening. Good food, good company, and no complications. Everything was going perfectly until my phone rang with a Facebook notification. I wouldn't normally check my phone during dinner, but something prompted me to look, and I'm glad I did. Sarah had posted another message, and this one was the most direct yet. She wrote something like, "It's sad when people can't move on and keep holding grudges about the past. At some point you have to wonder if they're just jealous or still obsessed with what they lost." My stomach churned. There was no doubt in my mind that she was referring to me, and the insinuation that I was still obsessed with Derek made my blood boil. First of all, Derek is the last person in the world I would ever want to be with again. Secondly, Sarah's attempt to create this narrative that I was jealous or bitter was so ridiculous it almost made me laugh. But what really annoyed me was that she was publicly escalating things, exposing our personal problems for everyone to see. I showed the post to Daniel, who immediately suggested that I block her and be done with it. He was right, of course, but something inside me broke. I was tired of Sarah trying to control the narrative, tired of my mother allowing it, and tired of being presented as the villain when all I had done was protect myself. For the first time in years, I decided to confront Sarah directly. The next day I called my mother and told her that I would meet with her and Sarah, not to reconcile, but to clarify things once and for all. She was enthusiastic, thinking that this was my way of repairing the ties, and eagerly organized the meeting at her house. I didn't bother to correct her. My goal was not to fix anything. It was to finally express what I thought and end the situation. When I arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. My mother greeted me with her usual mixture of nervous warmth, clearly hoping to act as a mediator. Sarah, on the other hand, seemed smug, as if she thought she had already won. She didn't even wait for me to sit down before launching into her usual spiel about how much she missed me and how family is too important to allow a single mistake to ruin everything. I let her talk, holding my words until she finally paused, clearly expecting me to agree or apologize. Instead, I calmly asked her about her Facebook post. She didn't even try to deny it. On the contrary, she insisted that it was just a general observation and that if I felt attacked, perhaps it was because I had hit the mark. She accused me of being obsessed with the past and suggested that my anger had less to do with her betrayal and more to do with my inability to get over Derek. It was then that I lost my temper. I told her without reservation that this had absolutely nothing to do with Derek and everything to do with her complete lack of responsibility. I reminded her that it was she who made the decision to get involved with my boyfriend, knowing full well the damage it would cause me, and that she had never once offered me a sincere apology. Instead, she spent years presenting herself as the victim and using our family to make me feel guilty for not forgiving her. I told her that I had no interest in reconciling with someone who couldn't even admit her mistake, much less try to make up for it. My mother tried to interrupt, but I wasn't finished. I turned to her and told her that I was fed up with her constant attempts to make me feel guilty and her emotional manipulation. I told her that I loved her, but her refusal to respect my boundaries had brought me to a breaking point. I made it clear that I wasn't completely cutting off the relationship, but I needed space and I wouldn't participate in any more family interventions or forced reconciliation attempts. If she wanted to maintain a relationship with me, she would have to accept that Sarah was not part of my life. At that moment, Sarah began to cry. Big dramatic tears that I'm sure were intended to make me feel guilty. She kept saying things like, "I've tried so hard to make things right," and "I don't understand why you hate me so much," but her tears didn't move me at all. They felt like an act, like another attempt to manipulate the situation and turn it in her favor. When it became clear that I wasn't going to give in, Sarah's behavior changed drastically. She became defensive, accusing me of being insensitive and unwilling to forgive. She even made a cutting remark about how nice it must be to feel so perfect all the time. At that very moment, I just laughed. It wasn't a laugh of joy, but the kind of laugh that emerges when you realize that there is no point in arguing with someone who flatly refuses to see reality. I got up, told them both that I was definitely done with this situation, and left. On the way home, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. For years, I had carried the weight of this drama, constantly questioning whether I was doing the right thing and whether I owed something more to Sarah or to my mother. But in that moment, I knew for sure that I didn't. I had tried to explain my position, I had set clear boundaries and tried to move on, but they were not willing to meet me halfway, and that was not my responsibility or my fault. Since then, I have blocked Sarah on all digital platforms and have informed my mother that I will be taking a break from family events in the near future. I don't know if she will respect that boundary, but I am prepared to enforce it if she doesn't. Daniel has been my rock throughout this whole process, constantly reminding me that I have every right to protect my peace of mind and that I am not a bad person for walking away from relationships that are toxic to me. The irony is that I don't even feel angry anymore, just incredibly relieved. For the first time in years, I feel like I can fully concentrate on my own life without the constant shadow of family drama hanging over me. I have a wonderful husband, a group of friends who support me unconditionally, and a future full of possibilities. Letting go of Sarah and the part of my family that refuses to respect me feels like a weight I have carried for too long has been lifted. To everyone who has followed this complicated journey and offered their advice, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your comments and perspectives helped me see things more clearly and gave me the courage to stand up for myself. I don't know where things will go from here with my family, but for the moment I am at peace with my decision, and that, for me, is worth absolutely everything. Am I sad that it had to end this way? A little, I can't deny it. But mostly, I feel relieved to have put an end to all this never-ending drama. Life is too short to spend it tied to people who only cause you pain, no matter how much they claim to love you. If there is one thing I have learned through this whole experience, it is that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is absolutely necessary. So here I am, finally moving forward with my life.